Rita and I touched down at Port Vila, Vanuatu, in the Pacific tropics, after a 1.5 hour flight from the New Zealand winter. We had taken up an opportunity to help sail a yacht from Vanuatu to New Caledonia. While we were there, we hoped to take in some of the Pacific Island sights and lifestyle. This is Port Vila Marina, our base for a few days before we set sail for New Caledonia. We met our skipper, Peter, and were ferried out to the yacht we were to sail in. The Port Vila anchorage was very serene in the morning light. The local market had an extensive range of fresh fruit and vegetables, so we took the opportunity to stock up. It was great to taste the local varieties of properly ripened pineapples and bananas.
He promised us van had aircon.
The next day we took a guided tour of Vanuatu's main island of Efate.
When we go faster, the aircon will come cooler.
The first stop was the meeting house for the island's chiefs.
Where all the men and the chief, they gather there, they drink kava.
We then drove along Vanuatu's only long-distance road, which circuited the island.
See, they swing their tail because they're happy.
There was quite a lot of cattle farming, and in fact Vanuatu is an exporter of beef.
It's not food eatable. We don't eat that right now. Only we use it like a medicine.
The first stop was a swim in the so-called Blue Lagoon. Followed by a quick morning tea of tropical fruits. And then onwards to our next stop, which was a drive through one of the local villages.
In the middle, that's a kitchen house. Okay? Not the kava, not the violence to the kava, because the kava was denomination. But the main religion here is Christian. 99% Christian. Left the party. Take a picture.
Our next stop was a traditional native welcome and dance performance.
Ready?
For the final dance, all the tourists were asked to join in. We then drove by the site of an old French mining operation.
right side, you will see some rust in peace. Not rest in peace, but rust in peace. But the body muscle guy, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Wow. Well, you go to New Caledonia. You got it, Tony? Tom?
At the next village, we were treated to some singing by the local school children. Then it was time for lunch at a seaside cafe, with a local band adding to the ambience. Then it was a demonstration of the many uses of a coconut.
That's it, stick on the ground like this. So you hold here. Mattresses with this one here. You can start fire with this one here, okay? And you can use it like a brush for washing machine. If you don't know to hold machete yet, just turn like this.
This is the same water here. You can drink this one, but it's a little bit old.
And you can see the faster we go, the better we have. Okay?
The next morning, we headed out of Port Vila on our voyage to New Caledonia. The yacht is a 49-foot Bowman ketch. For most of the first day, the wind was a rather fresh 20 knots, with a lumpy sea. But by the morning of our second day at sea, the conditions had eased to a comfortable sail. We let the autopilot do the steering pretty much the whole way. We were making good progress, averaging about 6 knots of boat speed. By the evening, the conditions had eased enough for us to dine in style while watching the sunset. By the morning, the wind had died almost completely, but by then the mountains of New Caledonia had come into view. We passed through a gap in New Caledonia's extensive network of fringing reefs, the infamous Havana Passage, with the help of our electronic navigation system. Once we were through, we had pleasant smooth water sailing in what is the world's biggest lagoon.
Push the button
although we always had to be on the lookout for hidden reefs. Passing along the southern shore of New Caledonia, we decided to investigate a lovely looking bay called the Baie de Prony. We came across a lovely sheltered bay with some conveniently placed moorings, so we tied up to one of them.
That's refreshing.
We went ashore for some further exploration. The plants and wildlife are all very different from what we're used to in New Zealand, but also strangely familiar.
It's quite similar to in the way to the Norfolk pine.
This plant seems to be related to Dracophyllum. We also did some snorkeling to check out the corals. The water was a bit murky due to the muddy foreshore. But we still managed to see some interesting things. That evening we enjoyed another dinner set against the background of another lovely tropical sunset. The next morning, after checking out the fish, we motored over to a nearby island to explore further. The island contained an abandoned resort.
Oh, you can see the enormous spider webs under the coconut tree.
The dominant native species were cycads and colonial pines, a relative of Norfolk pines. We came across some massive spider webs. And their makers. We followed a path through to the other side of the island, where we found stunning beaches and lovely views. We found another path that took us on a circuit of the island, led by the island's resident dog. We came across one of the many eroded scars that were a not so pleasant feature of the area. Another blot on the landscape was this nickel refinery, which is one of the major industries of New Caledonia. Colonial pines were a feature of the shoreline on the far side of the island. We were really impressed with the beaches and unique tropical vegetation on this side of the island. The size of this banyan tree was really impressive. In the afternoon we headed further along the coastline towards Nouméa. We approached Nouméa just as the sun was setting. The next morning we went ashore to check in with Customs and Immigration and to explore the town. We found Nouméa to be a marked contrast compared to Vanuatu. The urban environment was much more European. However, we did find some evidence of the native culture. This is Vanuatu, the main resort beach near Nouméa. These seaside chalets are on Quendo Beach on the other side of Nouméa. The aquarium at Vanuatu Beach had an impressive range of tropical fish and corals. Including these fluorescent corals. This is a lionfish. This is a clownfish. There were some very large tanks, allowing for large collections of big fish. The next day we visited the Jebel Cultural Centre on the outskirts of Nouméa. The carving in the entranceway was impressive. The innovative architecture is meant to resemble the style of the native huts. Going inside, you can get an impression of their intricate construction. Later on, we visited a hilltop restaurant outside of Nouméa. And did a walk through the upland forest. This is a close relative of the New Zealand kauri tree. We had a great view looking southwards towards Nouméa and our home, New Zealand, about 2,000 kilometres beyond. The next day, our last, we were driven the 40 kilometres to the airport for our flight back home. Overall, the trip was a wonderful mix of land-based exploration of island culture and some top quality cruising we will have to visit again.